pēcpusdienā šajā brīnišķīgajā pilsētā. Mēs esam tikušies, lai runātu par kādu tematu, kas attiecās uz mums visiem, bet mēs nevienmēr par to iedomājamies. Mēs runāsim par to, kā platformas, kuras savā darbā izmanto algoritmus un mākslīgo intelektu, kā šīs platformas ietekmē mūsu informācijas patēriņu, mūsu viedokļus, mūsu uzvedību. Un es šodien esmu kopā ar viesiem no Dānijas, Īrijas un no Latvijas, un mūsu diskusija būs angļu valodā, bet pirms mēs sākam, es vēlējos pajautāt, vai no mūsu auditorijas pārstāvjiem ir kāds, kam ir nepieciešams tulkojums, tad paceliet rokas, un mūsu organizatori palīdzēs jums nodrošināt šo te tulkojumu. Tad no šī brīža mēs turpināsim angļu valodā. And hello everyone. It is very nice to see you in this wonderful day and wonderful city to discuss a topic which is so important in our life, but not all of us are thinking about it. And it is about how platforms using artificial intelligence and algorithms influence what we are thinking, how we are behaving, what kind of decisions we are taking. And our discussion today is supported by Nordic Council of Ministers office in Latvia in cooperation with Irish Embassy and Digital Democracy Center in Denmark. And my name is Guna Spurava. I am a researcher who started my academic work at the University of Latvia around 15 years ago, and now I am working in different universities at Tampere University in Sweden and also in Denmark at Digital Democracy Center. And we have 4 guests, and Arjen van Dalen is from Digital Democracy Center in Denmark, and Aiga Grišāne is from European Commission's representation in Latvia, and Jane Suter is from Dublin City University, and Zane Vāgnere is from Ministry of Culture in Latvia. So I will ask our participants shortly introduce yourself. So we can start with Arjen.
So my name is Arjen van Dalen. I'm professor in journalism at the University of Southern Denmark, and I study the spread of misinformation on digital platforms. Apart from my affiliation with the Center for Journalism, I'm also affiliated with Political Science Department and Digital Democracy Center, and I think this broad perspective is needed to understand these processes.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Jane Suter, and I'm a professor in Dublin. I work a lot on citizen deliberation, so on the citizens' assemblies and different citizen participation, but I'm also director of a research institute on democracy and society, and we work with the EDMO hubs and so on disinformation and platform regulation and that kind of thing. So it's fantastic to see a panel where these things are brought together, and I love this festival. It's fabulous that you don't have to buy tickets and everybody is open for conversation. So thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Aiga. I work for the European Commission now, and I have more than 10 years of experience in media policy, digital legislation, and the fight against disinformation. Previously, I worked for Ministry of Culture here in Latvia and also for the European Parliament on those issues.
Hello, my name is Zane Vāgnere. I'm from Ministry of Culture, and short introduction is that I do everything except culture. And mainly it's media policy, and with respect to also digital platforms, I've been also previously working in Brussels as a representative of Latvia in the European Council, and also we worked a lot already at the beginnings in 2010 when we started to approach big platforms and talking about misinformation, disinformation, and as well necessity on media literacy. And that is my daily job still today.
Thank you very much, all participants. And I just wanted, before we start to discuss with our participants, to tell you a little story how we reached that place where we are now today. And I was thinking a long time ago about all problems that platforms create us, and at the same time, as all of us, I was user of platforms, and I didn't know what benefits platforms provides to me. But I also understood that there are quite a lot of challenges. And then when I started to study more deeper these topics, and I realized that one of that basic reason of why we need to talk about these platforms using algorithms is related with more bigger transformations related to digitalization and related to consequence what the digitalization created to our information, and it is about information overload. We today have access to many units of information, be it use social media posts, our friends' information, pictures, jokes, memes. There are millions units of information, and when we have given that access, then question is what we can do to choose most appropriate information. And that idea about how we can to manage that was used in social media platforms as a base in their business models. They realized that there is that problem with information overload, and they started to provide very good tools for selecting information. They are choosing information what they are showing in our feeds, and they are following our interests, and they are providing information what we are most interested. And I think it is quite comfortable, quite good thing, but there are also some challenges there and some questions. How they choose really that information, and who benefits from the way how they are choosing information, and how we as users are reacting on this situation. And that was my starting point of studies. And then I realized that there are quite a lot of studies showing that actually there are quite a lot of challenges in this field, and these challenges are related to information diversity and echo chambers, as you maybe have heard. And I realized that it would be very good to study deeper, and as my previous background has been in media education studies, I quite often hear that actually it is not enough with media education in this field, that it is very important also regulate platforms. But I thought I don't understand anything about regulation, and I realized that I need to do more in-depth research in this area. And then I joined the Digital Democracy Center, where together with Arjen we were conducting research where we interviewed media regulators and those who are responsible about media policy around 5 Nordic countries and 3 Baltic countries. And we started our study in 1st of January, and now we have collected our data based on interviews with these regulators. And what we can see is that actually media regulators and media policy representatives are very much worried about situation, and that main general worries are about challenge to democracy, challenge to how the opinions in our society are altered, what kind of impact this AI-based algorithmic recommendation creates on how we are taking decisions. Polarization in society was one of also serious issues mentioned by our research participants. A lot of research participants were worried about how algorithms amplify misinformation and how these operations, what algorithms are doing, are influencing our decisions at everyday level, but also such important decisions as how to vote, about whom to vote. And there are a lot of things to be concerned, and a lot of things what we can see we need to continue to study, and we are just in that stage where we are starting to analyze our data, but we thought that LAMPA is a very good place where to come with this topic, because we can talk not only with experts from academic world and from regulator side and policy making, but also with you, members of audience. So let's start our discussion, and I will start with first question, very general question about, and I will ask Jane you at first. How do you describe what are main challenges what these algorithm-based platforms and artificial intelligence-driven platforms create to democratic society?
Yeah. I think it's very easy to focus on what they can do. So if you're like me and you have to correct student essays, you soon see the percentage of them that are written by chat or by something else. So every student, I think, in Europe knows the kind of the power of AI, being able to summarize things, ask things for them, and so on. And the exponential rise of kind of chat AI, of ChatGPT and the other models is just extraordinary. But of course they come with really, really serious risks. And I think the first thing we have to really acknowledge is that we were far too slow off the mark. We let the platforms self-regulate for far too long. We chose to believe their assurances that they were acting in the public interest. But we can't fool ourselves any longer. We know that the platforms are there to sell advertising. They're there for the bottom line. They're not there in the public interest, no matter what their well-paid public interest people, a lot of them Irish, tell us. So with search and with social, they completely undermined the business models of the publishing and the journalistic industries. With their attention-seeking algorithms, they even changed the kind of things that newspapers would put out, because otherwise you couldn't actually get your stories seen on the web. They undermined public discourse. They manipulated and stole the creative output of creatives, of journalists, of the published interest, and of course they turbocharged disinformation and polarization. And now with the new models with AI, this has been threatened on whole new levels. So with disinformation, we see the rise of synthetic disinformation. We can already see deep fakes, fabricated articles in elections, misleading videos of politicians, clips to stories that don't exist. The Telegraph in the UK, a once venerable newspaper, published a completely fake story about a completely made-up family, complete with fake photographs just last week that they had to apologise for. When you put a query into these chat models, you get back that you're fantastic and you're so clever for thinking about it like that, and it'll feed you back more and more of what you want to hear. So they create echo chambers, and so they basically shows content that confirms our own views. And so that allows us to lose sight of the common ground that's needed to protect our democracies. And at the same time, the AI summaries, you all know now, if you put something into Google, you don't see the sites that you used to see, you see the AI summaries. So of course these AI summaries are reducing traffic to all the publishers' websites. You know, the traffic even to newspapers like the FT is down 40% because of these AI summaries. And at the same time, they're crawling everybody's content. So The Atlantic recently put up a list of all the publications that went into Meta's AI. And I'd say everybody on this platform, and probably many of you in the audience, if you check it out, every second thing you've ever written in the world was probably used by Meta without any copyright to create its AI. But also, of course, they're scraping from the astroturfing websites. So we know that Russia and other bad actors are creating websites that look like they're real. They're not promoting them anywhere. You probably would never come across them. But the AI algorithms are finding them and crawling them. And then this is leading to like really poor information in the AI summaries that can be manipulated by bad actors. So what are we doing? I want to look first at what are we doing and then what can we do? So arguably, like we'll hear, of course, about, what we are doing, and the EU, of course, is leading, but regulation can't keep up with tech. So, it's simply not enough and not fast enough. We have a landmark AI Act, but the amount of lobbying against it in Brussels is just absolutely unreal. There's the possibility that some of the requirements will become voluntary. There's real questions about it. It did set out what is high risk, but there's some questions around that now, and there's really significant lobbying by the tech platforms against the kind of transparency in it. The democracy shield, which is vital, I think, to all of our futures in Europe, is still unfinished. And there's a lot of people in civil society think that it's just defending the status quo. And as far as I can see, there's no actual budget for it, official line-by-line budget in the 2026 budget in the Commission. The DSA is also in some flux. As I said, we should have regulated the tech platforms 20 years ago. But we need to know how they're going to assess risk because, arguably our current polycrises are both tech-induced and tech-facilitated. So the current co-regulatory model, while definitely an improvement on self-regulation, still assumes good faith on the part of the platforms. But I'm not sure the extent that we've seen this good faith in the past and the extent to which we should facilitate it now. We have new regulations that are supposed to be coming up on political advertising. But I was at a meeting in Dublin last week, and Google is threatening to withdraw from political advertising. It's not clear what they're going to do, whether they're going to keep their ad libraries open, which researchers can use, and so on. Will we see who they block, who they don't? So I think, what we need to do is we need to see stuff done. So I don't want to leave you with a dystopia. I know I'm very depressing. I want to leave you with some thoughts about what we can do. And I think what we need to think is that the platforms in AI, they aren't destiny, they're a tool, and we can decide how that tool is used. So I think we can choose, and we'll hear more about we can choose to build and fund public interest media that puts European democratic values first. We can teach digital literacy that we'll hear about in a really deep, relevant way, not just check your sources, but understand how algorithms work, recognize synthetic media, learn how persuasion works in an AI-shaped world. We have to also focus on education more broadly, which I think we'll hear about as well. The big tech companies have their sights set on education, and that's pretty concerning when you consider that they're profit companies with little demonstrated public interest. And it's through education that we foster citizens with capacities for critical thinking and empathy. So one solution could be that any company that wants to insert itself into our public education system should be required to be non-profit. There's people advocating that. Maybe that's something we should think about. I think we need to campaign to ensure that recommender algorithms are transparent and that citizens can have a participatory role in deciding about it. The platforms are lobbying hard against transparency. and participation in their recommender algorithms, but they offer us ridiculous binary choices. Oh, they can be on or off. They need to be on to protect you. But of course the world isn't binary. We don't need to take that kind of a framing. This can be part of the DSA if we want. I think some research by UCL in London found that 70% of the public actually want personalised recommender algorithms to be easily, visibly turned on and off. So we can work to achieve that. And I think finally and most crucially what I'd say is we have to embed democracy into AI itself. So that means much more than code. It means including ethicists, journalists, citizens, regulators in shaping the systems that we all live with. The Democracy Shield is still a work in progress. It's still in its transitionary phase. So why not have like national, local, national, European citizens panels to discuss the Democracy Shield? What do we want to have in it? The European Commission currently has a citizens panel on the 2026 budget. We could have a citizens panel on the Democracy Shield. All the media regulators could start initiating citizens panels right across Europe to see, what do Europeans want in the Democracy Shield? How do we want to see our democracies protected? How do we put European people's interests and values first in it? So I think we need to move beyond the usual consultation and really put people in it. Because I think if we remember that AI is really powerful, but the future doesn't have to be written by tech bros in Silicon Valley, right? It can be written by us. We can bring the people in. We can put European values into it, but we just need to think and act and decide how to do it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jane. And I was so happy to hear that you focus so much on solutions. When we arrived here today, the first thing that we read together with Arjen was about rules that are here, and that it was told that if you are criticizing something, you need to provide some kind of solutions. And I thought, oh, maybe I am too critical. I hope that we will proceed solutions direction. Thank you so much for going towards that direction. And now I will have a question to Arjen. And I know that you have been studying quite a long time algorithmic content recommenders and their role. Can you tell a little bit more about how they shape public access to information and other things that you find important?
Yes, absolutely. And I would like to start referring to the Reuters Digital News Report, which came out last week, which showed again an increase in people who get access to news through social media platforms. And even though you would think there's a lot of things happening in the world, so people would probably also turn to traditional news media, we actually see that that is still in decline. And especially among younger generations, they're getting more and more of their information from these social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, for example. And what I see in our research also is that there's often a lack of awareness of this shift and the different logics. So when we ask young people, what is the news organization that you get most of your news from, they answer Facebook. And then we ask, well, Facebook is not really a news organization, so what was the source of this information? And then they stay silent, so they are not really aware of what was actually the news organization behind the information that came up in their social media feeds. So I think this shows a lack of awareness of the different logic that are guiding how traditional journalistic news media are working and selecting information, and how social media platforms are working and how the algorithms are shaping what information we get to see. So traditional journalistic news media, they work based on the journalistic ethics, journalistic education. They have professional norms, and their most important goal is to inform the public. That is what informs their their decision on what information to bring. But what we see with the social media platforms is different goals. Here the goal is primary to keep people engaged, to keep people to stay on the platform, and for people to consume as much information as possible. And that is a completely different logic, and that also creates very different outcomes in the kind of public information that people get to see. And one effect of these algorithms that are shaping our information is narrowing of diversity of perspectives. So we get more and more feeded the kind of perspectives that we already agree with. The algorithms knows that this can lead to more engagement. So less diversity than what we would get from traditional news media. Then also we know that these social media algorithms can be exploited by actors with bad intentions, with the aim of spreading misinformation and disinformation. If you know how the algorithms are working, you can provide the kind of content, and you can also work with bots and with coordinated campaigns to manipulate the algorithms in order to spread this information that you want to get out there. And this is one of the effects of these algorithms. Then you could say, on the other hand, the algorithms are also there to correct and limit misinformation. They might spot misinformation and be able to get it off the platforms. But if you look how this is working in practice, then you can see that a lot of information is not taken away by these algorithms who are monitoring and moderating information on social media platforms. What we also see is a lack of cultural awareness, and especially with languages other than English, there are definitely challenges with algorithms when it comes to identifying and filtering out misinformation. And a case where we could see this clearly were the Romanian presidential elections from the end of 2024, where one candidate, Ceausescu, got a lot of votes, surprisingly, and this was related to a lot of traction that posts supporting him got on TikTok. And there have been analyses that have shown that this was partly the effect of coordinated campaigns, which were put in place to take advantage of the algorithms and to spread information which support him. And the algorithms used by TikTok to moderate speech and to kind of avoid this being taking place were not able to spot this coordinated campaign. So I think that clearly shows some of the challenges that we see when people are getting more and more of their news and information from social media platforms. People often say, well, the main problem with algorithms is that they discriminate. I would say one of the main problems is the algorithms do not sufficiently discriminate between false information and correct information. And that leads to the potential spread of more disinformation and not being able to filter this out anymore.
Yeah, thank you very much, Arjen. And you mentioned about awareness and importance of awareness, and that is where we will proceed now. And I will ask you, Zane, to maybe to come with some suggestions how people can become more aware what is happening in this AI-driven world, and to understand better what the algorithms are doing with our information.
Thank you. Very, very important question, and I think especially for the auditorium and thinking about that, and I think new, let's say, new horizon which has opened right now for the past 2 years for each of us, and also in Latvia and the world, is not only disinformation, because in Latvia, I must say, we are quite at the top of understanding and knowing that and believing that we can recognize this information, and this is also shown by our researchers. But what is the next level of next platform which has been opened up is basically how do we do with things like large language models? How many of you have actually used ChatGPT? Okay, you are not Latvian average, that I must say, or the latest research was showing that actually 73% are how to say, have very small knowledge or little knowledge, how to use large language models, and 52% are even not interested of using that. However, I must say, that was last year. And I'm really keen on looking what will be the numbers this year, because just recently going into the hair salon, I heard two ladies around 60 who were talking about using ChatGPT, and they were each other suggesting whether the paid platform, paid ChatGPT is better than the unpaid. So that, I think, shows just society is quite rapidly adapting to that. And when thinking about, and those of you who have used, it's quite remarkable of looking at these results that you have. And also, by the way, question, from those of you who have used ChatGPT, how many are writing thank you and please? Okay, we do see a natural emotional attachment that we actually do want to transform our humanity to this technology. But the important thing is to realize, and that also came for my realization after attending many conferences, is that when you look at the ChatGPT, everybody, like large language models, everybody knows, of course, there is a risk of hallucinations. And you always try to look out, where are those hallucinations? But in reality, it really struck me at one conference that actually everything that we look at, the result of large language models or even chatbots who use artificial intelligence, everything is hallucinations. And I think that is the bottom line where we have to start to think of what we can do. And looking at what we can do or what kind of tools we have to equip ourselves. The number one tool, which we also have been using in Latvia for many years, because manipulation of information is not something new in this part of the region of the world, it's really critical thinking. Critical thinking and constantly learning and being like critically looking at what you get, checking your sources, and also staying emotionally fit and distant from the technology that is producing you the results. So, and another thing that we in Latvia do, and which we will be continuing to do, is to work on media literacy for everyone, not only for children at school, and that is something also that we've seen Ministry of Education doing a lot, seeing how media, let's say critical thinking and also media literacy can be integrated into the every subject. So that is something that is underway in Latvia and in many also European countries, which is absolutely must and essential. And the next thing is, of course, actually the groups which are most vulnerable to disinformation and most vulnerable to these, let's say, hallucinations are those who don't have let's say access enough on digital knowledge, as well as depending on education level. Some of the new researches also show that if you are you have not the highest level of the education, then these people are, and also social and income, then these people are more prone to misinformation. So there is really a lot of correlation between your level of education, your income, and spreading of misinformation, also ability to use tools. And something which I found very interesting also in research in US is that people, so a lot of you who have used, they think, oh, this result of large language models is not so good. I can invent better. Because it's very natural, is that if you are already among those people who already produces a very high quality outcomes with using artificial intelligence, your ability to get bigger results is just from 5 to maximum 15%. If you are somewhere at the middle, you can catch up those who are really good. But if you are somebody who are at the lowest bottom, actually ability even to use these tools is so low that these people are actually almost like falling into this so-called digital crevasse. And that is very difficult, dangerous for society. So if we look at the democracy question, if we look at the society composition question, it's important not only to learn critically and critically work with your knowledge and critically assess the information that you get, but also think about how do we do the other part, the decomputerization part. And these questions will, in societies all over the world, will come back again, and we will need to think not only how do we make sure that people who are good with AI don't replace people who are bad with AI, but we will have to think how society actually also decomputerizes, digitalizes itself. And I think one of the great examples here is Lampa. That is one of the best antidote of just relying on let's say, results that large language models, for example, produce, because I totally agree. Researchers show that 94% of outputs which are produced by large language models are actually similar or the same ideas. They don't offer creativity of ideas, or they don't offer diversity of ideas. And still right now, if people come together and sit down and say let's brainstorm, let's discuss, their creativity will be, and output of their ideas and diversity will be always much larger than even the current best model. So that's why this is another antidote, and that's also in Ministry of Culture, which we work, is also supporting NGOs to enhance and create civil society. Importance of people meeting locally or at regionally or just in the small discussion clubs will become just more important. And these parts of knowledge that we have, and this ability to get together, discuss, that will be crucial in order that people don't fall in crevices, don't fall in the hallucinations, and that we keep our society and democracy together.
Thank you very much, Zane, and I completely agree with you about importance of rising critical thinking and awareness, and the need for thinking of new way about how we can proceed the direction. And I also remember from my conversations with media regulators and media policy representatives that they especially emphasized thinking about what can be done locally when platforms are based mostly in United States or in China, and regulation is centralized in European level. What can do people in local level, and that rising awareness was one of things. But at the same time, what they told, it is very important that we are not putting all responsibility on individuals, that it is very important to think about regulation and to find the way how to balance education and regulation. So I will ask Aiga, who is involved in this process, what is the role of regulators, both EU level and local country level regulators, in addressing these challenges, and what challenges regulators are facing themselves in this regard?
Thanks, Gunnar, for the question. Before I start answering, I'd like to check in with you, with the audience. Please do raise your hand if you know what the DSA stands for. Oh. Okay, you know, I know. So now please do raise your hand if you've heard of Digital Services Act, Digitālo pakalpojumu akts. Okay. And please do raise your hand if you know what the European Commission is doing as a regulator regarding Digital Services Act. Yeah, I mean, I could keep my hand down as well, but just kidding. Okay, so I'll give you a short overview. I mean, the Digital Services Act is digital regulation of the European Union. It regulates digital services, digital platforms, such as social media, such as also marketplaces, and such as app stores. And the European Union, the European Commission, is the second tier of regulation. So part of the platforms, part of the services are regulated by national regulator, but the European Commission is the one that enforces the Digital Services Act on the very large online platforms. Maybe you've seen abbreviation VLOPS or VLOPSes. That's the one. So it's very large online platforms. Those are platforms that have more than 45 million users in the EU. That's roughly 10% of the population. So most of the major platforms that we use, social media platforms, are regulated by the DSA and are designated as very large online platforms. But here I have to take into account our national context and say that Telegram is not yet designated as a very large online platform, and also ChatGPT is not there yet, but we're working on it. Now, some relevant maybe obligations or relevant things from the regulation to our discussion. So the DSA really clearly acknowledges that algorithms, recommender systems are core part of the way platforms provide information, the way they curate information. It's ranking, suggesting, prioritizing information, optimizing search. And thus, obviously, it has a significant impact on how we consume information, what information is being amplified, what information goes viral, how it's disseminated. And the first obligation in this regard to the very large online platforms, and to any platform actually, is transparency. So one of the things that platforms have to explain in their terms and conditions and elsewhere is how this prioritization, this recommender systems work. And they have to explain it in a way so we all can understand. It has to have explanation on profiling, so you would understand on which criteria and how the profiling is done, and also if it uses actually your previous online behavior or not, so you would be aware if it's influencing what you see. Second, for the very large online platforms, at least one option has to be this opt-out that you talked about. So you have to be able to opt out. Maybe I can check in again with you. How many of you have opted out? I mean, if you use social media, how many of you have opted out from using this recommender systems based on profiling? Okay, but as Zane said, indeed, many people prefer actually to see what they like. And obviously, if you've done it, you also probably saw that it's not that easy. It takes a couple of steps. You actually have to find where to do it. So that is a question to look at. And third thing, and here we will come to the question asked, is the role of the regulators. And here I will talk about the risk assessment, basically. So Digital Services Act asks the very large online platforms to do risk assessments and also to mitigate the risks they have found. And those risks are the ones that are either in the design, already embedded in the design and stemming from the design itself, or from the functioning. And of course, many of those are related to the algorithmic systems, like the way you can misuse those systems, feed in bots there, or artificial engagements, or sort of things like that. And as systemic risks, for our discussions, the relevant ones we're looking at, which are also defined, is freedom of information in general, but also very particularly the impact on freedom and pluralism of the media, and also civic discourse and electoral processes, and obviously public security. Well, mitigation measures can, and most of the times they do include adapting the algorithmic systems of the platforms. European Commission assesses how the platforms comply with the large online platforms comply with the regulation, whether they have appropriate mitigation measures in place, whether the risk assessment actually was appropriate. And one thing, what is very important to know is that the European Commission does not look at individual pieces of content, even if it's like illegal content on very large online platforms. this is something that the national regulators have to deal with, or the national competent authorities have to deal with. We look at the overall risk. If we see that there are a lot of notices about harmful content, illegal content, and that is not taken down, then we can assess whether there has been a systemic risk in this. Now for the challenges, maybe obviously the, I think, largest challenge for the regulator is speed. You have to thoroughly assess data you get. You have a lot of data, and you also have to follow the due process. We have launched more than 10 formal proceedings. All of them are still open. We are looking at, for example, harmful effects on minors, how algorithmic systems, how harmful effects on mental health. And we have opened formal proceedings against TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook in this regard. And we obviously also look at the elections. And as for the TikTok, after the Romanian elections of last year, which were cancelled by the Romanian authorities, European Commission opened a formal proceeding. We're looking at systemic risks on elections and civic discourse, on possible intentional manipulation of services, including recommender systems and ad systems. We have asked for data retention, meaning that we will be able to assess all the data and be able to access all the data from the platform. We have also opened a formal proceeding against the X, the former Twitter. That was already 2023, but this year we've asked to retain also changes of algorithms. So for basically almost whole 2025, X has to retain any changes in algorithms, also because of the possible use of these algorithms to influence electoral processes. Well, the speed, like in these proceedings, is not that fast as many would expect. The Romanians cancelled elections. We're still investigating the compliance of the large platforms regarding the DSA. But there are also some things that are happening within the regulatory dialogue, so-called. So, for example, when TikTok wanted to launch a possibly highly addictive TikTok Lite rewards program in Europe, it had to initially submit this proposal to the European Commission, and after consultations and pressure also from other governments, it withdrew it all. So the TikTok Lite was a highly addictive program giving bonuses to kids basically for being on a platform longer and longer and longer. Now, if we look at the whole of society approach, because regulation is just a small part of it, and what was mentioned there, I would say, and some people in the audience will not let me lie, that 6 years ago there was much less support for fact-checking, much less support for media, independent media, and the European Commission is stepping up in this regard. So there are more and more programs, there's fact-checking networks, there's more and more financing for research, for actually also media and information literacy, for independent journalism, and there are also legislative files on that. And the whole DSA, as you know now, it's Digital Services Act, right? Infrastructure actually lies on the empowerment of people, empowerment of civil society organizations, empowerment of researchers, and there are many things also regarding transparency that are now obligatory, that you wouldn't have if there was no DSA, like the access to an existence of ad libraries. So platforms have to keep ads, and you have to be able to access it and evaluate the ads that have been run on the platforms. That was not there before. There are open proceedings actually against some of the platforms for not keeping up with the obligations as regards to the ad libraries, that they're not sufficiently good managed. So there's a lot there that helps and empowers also citizens. And yes, I mean, for the EU Democracy Shield, we followed it. And we also saw how this public consultation, even within this European Democracy Shield, is hijacked by pro-Russian actors. So I think we have to really do more and engage more public, as you say, to have this kind of pro-European and pro-democracy voice heard there, because as you exactly explained, there are a lot of websites, a lot of disinformation and pro-Kremlin narratives being fed into the algorithmic systems. They're also trying to influence our democratic processes by participating in our consultations, and we have to push back. We just have to be there. We have to be there with information. We have to be there actively engaging with institutions and with the regulators. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Aiga, and we can see that this issue, which is so important to all of us, is really challenging, and even if we are thinking about solutions as education and regulation, also we experience a lot of challenges related to that direction, which tells that for us as researchers, there is a field to dig deeper and deeper and to think how to help society. But did you want to add something, Arjen?
Yeah, it was in terms of solutions and regulations, maybe more possibilities to promote the presence of traditional media, news media content on social media platforms. So some obligations to carry this information and making it prominent. For example, in Germany, you have the electronic programming guides, where you can select which programs to watch on TV, and there they are obliged to prioritize public service media. So I think this is an interesting direction to go, and I see a lot of possibilities there also.
Yeah, thank you very much for this comment, and this is something that I heard also in our studies, that it would be potential direction where we can proceed, and but we have a lot of questions, and we will raise these questions in our studies. But for now, I would like to ask you, our audience, do you have any questions? Yeah.
Facilitate engagement, it really eliminates any nuanced discussion, because everything is either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. There is no in between, and it leads to higher and higher polarization. Can that be somehow solved, or is that like baked in to the way the social media is?
Jane?
Well, of course it can be solved. It's just a choice of what you code your algorithm for. So the point is that the platforms code their algorithms to create echo chambers, to create outrage, to make you feel you're special and really clever. You know, if you go on ChatGPT and say, I've had this great idea, what do you think? It'll tell you that it's the most fabulous idea ever, and, you know, here's something else to do. So then you keep putting it in and you build it. So they're built to kind of sustain empathy on the one hand and create polarization, because that's what people keep going with. And that's why if you're on chat, at the end it'll all say, well, can I also give you this? Can I also give you that? Because it just wants to keep you there. Like, it's all attention. They just want your attention. So, of course, we could choose to build a European AI system that prioritizes different things. But if we're going to use these AI systems, this is what's in their algorithms. But what we can do is insist on some transparency about what's in the algorithms. So that's something that we can think about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I very much agree with your observation, and we have also done some experiments. Could there be another way of prioritizing the posts? And we see if we put a more moderate post on the top, and that is the first thing people see, then they also will continue with more moderate positions. So there are definitely possibilities, but maybe the platforms are not looking into it or not willing to look into it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like continuing in the same vein, A couple of hours ago, on this very same stage, the editor-in-chief of Belsat, the so-called, Belarusian free radio, but in TV form, made a claim that the algorithms of the Meta Corporation, but also TikTok and most of social media, suppress Belarusian content and promote Russian content. And English, sorry. Bouncing off the previous comment, like in this context, it's not only about coding algorithms, you can make them do anything, but the social context, the socio-economic context they are coded in. These algorithms of social media are made in the context of free market capitalism by people who have a legal duty to maximize profit. And in this context, I think the solution of just, let's do things differently doesn't work. The social kind of checks and balances, the economic checks and balances here kind of play us into this situation where these all these companies that purportedly, pursue Western values of openness, free market, free discussion, etc., actually, for their own profit, need to suppress some sort of content. Some sort of content that we, I think, as Eastern Europeans, would need very badly to exist.
Great observation, and comment to that, I think, goes along the lines about the transparency and about what is shown or not shown. Is that discussion exactly with respect to media I had 10 years ago when Le Monde was telling about example that from one day to another, their clicks through the Google search suddenly dropped 30%. And that doesn't happen. It cannot happen naturally. 30% of audience doesn't go away in one day. It means algorithms being modified, and modified in some kind of way to bring some content up or some content down. Unfortunately, algorithms are protected by trademark law. It's a trademark law. So that is exactly how the market and the companies have made sure that so that whatever is in that black box or how it's calculated is without transparency to us. The only person or only part who is transparent, it's you. And I think that is the, let's say, the core dysfunction in whole of that story. At the same time, we will not be able, at least now, and we haven't been able, let's put it so, we haven't been able for the past decade and more to change that regulation with respect and protection of trademarks. But what we still have, I think we do have other ideas that, how to say, we need to have a more muscle and also maybe even better geopolitical situation, or we need to come and hopefully never to very bad situation in the world to change that thing. But even when you think about cable TVs, there is a must-carry obligation. And we don't see must-carry obligation with respect to searches or with respect to information where the first, actually the information, which information data is first used, so that these AI tools use the quality data. That is a thing I hope we will be better able to do. And I have to say that as much as we would want to, as Latvia, as I will tell it, compact state to work on these solutions, when I just visited in June at the beginning Norway, and Norway said, like, you know what, we cannot do much about these big platforms because we are a small country. And that said Norway. So I thought, okay, we will not go into how compact is Latvia, but that just shows that if we will be able to do that, we will be able to do that at a European level. And that's what I also hear from many of my co-parts and interviews with many democracy and AI tech experts from US. They really tell me, Zane, we hope that you will go first. And it's kind of, it's US company, but they really hope as society there, because they feel they will not be able to do that. And just at the beginning of June, I think it was in Congress in US, there were first signs from the Congress that they actually will not regulate deeper. But Aiga, you wanted to add something on.
Yes, I just wanted to shortly draw your attention that there was an input from the European Board for Media Services. That's where the regulators of the national European states get together, independent regulators, and they have suggested within the Democracy Shield that there has to be some regulation on having media literacy by design. That would mean like to have verified source indicators to the media, independent media content, and also have like user empowerment, like some embedded learning tools, and that would be like an obligation to have that. And they also talked about what you mentioned, the prominence of content. So this is there, it's discussed, but it's in a discussion, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this comment. And I think 10 minutes ago I have seen that we have left 5 minutes. But still, I would like to ask you one thing at the very end. And when I am studying this topic, I reached a place where I hear from people why exactly we need to get aware. And that I heard from other scholars telling that critical thinking is killed by comfort. And so that question why is still the one for me, what I am looking answer. And I wanted to ask you how we can answer to this question, why all of us need to be more aware about what is happening in this non-transparent, algorithm-driven world. Ariane, I will ask you to start.
Well, you can just look at the amount of time that people spend on the social media platforms on a regular day, maybe starting from 2.5 hours for older generations to 5 hours or so on. So this is a whole different world that's developing so quickly that just requires more attention.
Yeah, I think it's about values. I do not want to be convinced of the values I actually don't believe in, just because my ChatGPT friend is so convincing and so persuasive that I finally start believing him.
Yeah, I'd agree that it's about values, and I think now is when we have the opportunity. So the consultation is there. I think we need to think about that. We need to think about how to insert European values into the Democracy Shield, how to persuade the people in power in our countries to do that, and also to think about open source. There's no reason why we shouldn't go to your question and use some open source and build more open source communities where we're not reliant on tech billionaires.
Well, my why would be, reason why is that so that we still can have conversation, so that we still can have a diversity of opinions based on facts we can agree. Because the problem that what we see is that there's interpretation of the facts, and once people don't have agreement or understanding of what are the facts, then we lose ability to converse. And I think that is the really beauty of also these 2 days as well.
Thank you very much for this discussion. Thank you very much for questions from audience, and I wish we would get more awareness what is going on in this area. Thank you very much.